そうですね。やっぱりこのベン・ウェンダース監督の作品に参加できたこと、
So,
撮影
being
現場
part of
の
Vim's
そ
film
の映画に
really
対す
has
る
given
思
me
い
this
とか、
sense of the joy of
映
filmmaking.
画
Being
作り
on
の
his set
楽し
was
さっ
such a
ていうの
joy,
を改め
and
て
to be experiencing that
こ
at
の年に
this
なって教わっ
age
た感
really
じが
gives
する
me
ので、
motivation to keep going
これから
in
も
filmmaking now.
映画作りに頑張って参加していこうというふうな気持ちを新たにしましたね。
We did something radical. To answer really your question, I felt we were doing something quite radical when we made the film. It was reduced and simple and radical, and I felt I was back at the times when I made my first films because we made it so simply. And then when you do something so simple and radical, you don't know if you're the only ones who understand it or if you can share it. And we're so happy. And Koji was so happy. I watched him when we was seeing the film with an audience. I realized he was happy that it connected. The film came at a very strange and significant moment in life for all of us. We had all come back out of the pandemic. I had made Ansem during the pandemic, but I hadn't shot anything afterwards. And I felt it was a huge cultural shift all over the world. And seeing the Japanese people come back from their lockdown was such a revelation, and it showed me such a unexpected utopia. Because in my own city of Berlin, pandemic had one victim, and that was a sense of the common good and a responsibility for everything that was common. And in Japan, I witnessed people do the opposite. I mean, they had parties and they were jubilant to be back. They had the longest lockdown of any city in the world in Tokyo. And when they came back, they had parties in the streets, but afterwards they cleaned it up and they took up every piece of paper and every cigarette button and every bottle, and it was clean afterwards. And they cherished their places instead of wrecking them, like the little park where I live in Berlin. It was a ruin. 2 weeks later, it was dead. And in Tokyo, I realized there was a different spirit. And I didn't want to make a movie about or documentaries about these toilets. I felt there was something bigger we can do. And the toilets would be served better if they became background, not the thing itself. And I know from experience that if you want to really document a place, it's better to have fiction than a documentary approach. Like Berlin, if I had shot the documentary I considered in '87, it wouldn't have been an important film. But the fiction that became Wings of Desire really kept the spirit of that place, of that unique place in history. And I remembered that, and then I thought, well, these toilets, as beautiful as they are, they'd be better kept in a fiction. Well, somehow I did think of Hirayama as a monk. Somehow. I mean, he was a man who had grown up in privileged circumstances and had a very different life and had a breakdown and started again and started a simple life and a life of fulfillment that consisted in just reducing and being happy with what he had and having little, but loving people and loving nature. And actually, he does live a little bit like a monk in the solitude of a monk. And then again, he is not lonely. He shares his life with many people and he sees and respects people. So he does have a lot in common with my guardian angels in Wings of Desire. I only noticed it afterwards, not while we were making the film. I was not making the film based on anything I'd done, but I slowly realized this monk-like character felt a little bit like somebody I knew. My next project is figuring out how the two of us could work again together.
Now that I'm hearing that, I just can't wait for the next thing that we do together.
I told him a little bit already that I think we should do a science fiction film. I want to take Hirayama into the future.